Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about the Labour Party manifesto, and I think I'm probably going to upset one or two people, but so be it. Now, like millions of others, I shall be celebrating on the 5th of July the demise of what has, in my lifetime, been the worst government ever, a government of corruption, of dishonesty, of incompetence and utter ineptitude, led by five of the worst prime ministers almost ever. And yes, indeed, I can't wait to see the back of them. But I think a lot of people are probably hoping that immediately things will start getting better and that we'll be back on the road to recovery very soon. But I'm afraid I think that's unlikely. I think that Brexit has set us on a downward trajectory, and it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to turn it around. I certainly don't think the Labour Party, with their policies, having read their manifesto, having listened to Keir Starmer's speech, I don't think they've got any chance whatsoever of turning the economy around. It's going to be just too difficult. And at the root of it all is, of course, Brexit. And I think it's interesting. I've been rather pleased lately, actually, that when you watch the debates and when you watch Question Time, for example, whenever anyone is critical of Brexit, it tends to raise a round of applause. I think people are more and more realising now that really Brexit is what's brought us to the state we're in at the moment. I think people also realise that you can't go on and on and on blaming a pandemic that took place 4 years ago, or blaming Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Things are pretty bad here, and we're in a very bad state, and many people are really suffering and don't have very much hope. And it's no good keeping on saying, well, it's just as bad everywhere else, or look how bad it is in Germany and all the rest of it. It's not as bad everywhere else. Other countries are not throwing their sewage in the sea and the river. Other countries don't have millions of people waiting for hospital treatment. Other countries don't have enormous child poverty and people, hundreds of thousands of people depending upon food banks. Some do to have some extent, but nothing like as bad as it here. We are doing worse than most of our competitors, particularly our competitors in the EU. And I mean, both Conservatives and Labour have realised that the only way that we can fix things, the only things we can turn things around is by growing the economy. And so that's been the theme of a lot of Sunak's speeches, that we have to grow the economy, going for growth. And likewise it is with Starmer, where it's absolutely upfront with him. He talks about the Labour Party being a party of wealth creation. He talks about it's being the number one priority, Labour being pro-business, being a party of wealth creation, and the mandate being a mandate for economic growth. Now, as far as I can see, I mean, there are odd things. He wants to speed up planning and a few other bits and pieces, but it's all tinkering. I mean, you can't. I think this is what they don't understand. You can't just turn an economy around. You can't make an economy grow just like that. It takes a very, very long time. You know, starting a business, building a business takes a long time. And when you sort of shut yourself off from the biggest, richest, most successful market in the world, which is just across the channel, it makes it that much more difficult, because you've got to go so much further to try and get any customers, because people in Europe are reluctant to deal with us because it's so complicated. But let me just read you some of the things that are in this manifesto. He says, or it says, Britain is always stronger when we work with others. Presuming that's others apart from the EU. With Labour, Britain will stay outside of the EU. But to seize the opportunities ahead, we must make Brexit work. Brexit is a slow puncture. We've had nothing but negative consequences ever since the day we left the EU, and they're going on. There are plenty more negative consequences to come, more controls, import controls and so on. It's going to get more and more difficult, but we have to make it work. It's not possible to make Brexit work. You might try and find some alternatives to replace all the business we lost with the EU, but you can't make it work. It will not work. We will reset the relationship and seek seek to deepen ties with our European friends, neighbours and allies. Whenever he says anything about he's going to renegotiate or he's going to get a better deal or whatever, the EU immediately say it's not going to happen. There is no question of renegotiating as far as the EU is concerned. And also, incidentally, the EU, they moved on. They're not interested in us anymore. We're history. There will be no return to the single market, the customs union, or freedom of movement. Instead, Labour will work to improve the UK's trade and investment relationship with the EU. Do you know how he's going to do that? Do you know how they're going to do that? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to do it by tearing down unnecessary barriers to trade. Yeah, this is so naive. This is so ridiculous. Any country anywhere in the world which is outside of the EU has to deal with barriers to trade. We're all the same. We are outside of the EU. But he's going to tear them down. Is he going to tear them down for the whole world? Or just for us? It's a bit like this. Suppose I play golf, and I belong to a golf club which is just down the road. It's about a mile down the road. I can even walk there, actually. And I'm really keen. I play a lot. I go every weekend. I play Saturdays and Sundays, and I play in the summer. I sometimes play in the evenings. I'm a member of the club, and I have people to play with. And after we played, we have drinks, and sometimes I stay for lunch and so on. And sometimes I have functions, and I bring my partner and so on. And we know everybody there, and everything's fine. And also, I'm on the committee. I'm one of the committee, and the committee is the group that a dozen of us. We sort of run the club, really. We decide about the how much subscriptions are going to be and how much green fees are, and we decide when the clubhouse needs redecorating, all that sort of thing. So I'm sort of involved in running the club and so on. And one day I go into the club and I see all my friends everywhere. So I don't like you lot anymore because you make me pay too much money and I don't want to pay so much money and I don't like the colour you painted the clubhouse. And I'm going off. I will make my own decisions about all this. And they all say to you, well, what are you talking about? You must be crazy. You're on the committee. You're involved in all these decisions. Well, I just want to be independent. So you leave. You upset everybody by offending them all, by being rude to them all, and then off you go. And then next weekend you think, right, okay, I'm going to go and play golf somewhere. So you get in your car and you drive off, and you go and you drive 10 or 15 miles, and you find a golf club, and you go and you say, oh, I've come to play golf. And they say, oh, we're full up today. Sorry, can't play today. No, completely full up. You say, oh, okay. So you get back in your car and you go another few miles and you find another golf club and you say, can I play? And they say, well, we're a bit busy today, but you could play at 3 o'clock. You have to play with somebody else. And you wait until 3 o'clock and you play with somebody else. You don't like that person at all. And all in all, you think, what am I doing? What am I doing? Everything was fine before. What am I doing? And so you come home and you say to yourself, well, above all, absolutely, definitely, I'm never, ever, ever going to rejoin the club I've just left. But I'll go in and see the secretary and see if I can renegotiate a deal. I mean, it is that simple. You leave the club and then you want to go back and renegotiate a special deal so you can get advantages of being in the club. It's absolutely crazy. You're either in or you're out. We are out. And as far as Starmer and the Labour Party are concerned, we will never, ever, ever go back in. When Starmer first started saying this 3 years ago, I said this is crazy. I remember I actually phoned James O'Brien and spoke to him, and he cut me off very quickly. He just said that he thought Starmer was doing the right thing, and he was only saying it. I think he was only saying it, and a lot of people have argued this. They say he was only saying it because he didn't want to upset the Daily Mail and the Daily Express. Well, of course, they've been saying all along, despite the fact he's adamant he will never go back in. They've been saying that he really intends to rejoin the EU. It's a sort of scare thing they use all the time. And so we're out and we can't go back in, and he's going to renegotiate a new deal. Well, it isn't going to happen. And so the only alternative really is to find deals all over the world. And the Tories have been trying pretty hard to do that for the last however many years it is, and they failed spectacularly. We've got a miserable deal with Australia, a miserable deal with New Zealand. They're both laughing at us, and that's about it. So where are we going to get? Because you see, the only way we will ever pay for the health service, for the care, for education, and all these things we need to pay for, the only way is by expanding the economy. They're right on that. We have to expand the economy, and we have to become more productive. But once you shut the biggest market off, the biggest, easiest market to supply, made it so difficult that for small and medium-sized firms, either in the EU trying to export to the UK or in the UK trying to export to the EU, it's almost impossible. Then you are enormously handicapped. And on top of that, the labour shortages. There's so many areas where we're short of labour. And I have no idea what the Labour Party will do about that, except they keep talking about training people up. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. When we were in the EU, if you go to a coffee bar, you went to a bar, you went to shops, you were forever seeing young Europeans working here because they'd come over for a couple of years to learn the language and so on. Some of them stayed. Some of them maybe broke their arm and had to go to a hospital and had to actually use our NHS. They were paying taxes, working hard, paying taxes. And at the same time, all our young people were going over to Europe and getting experience of Europe and so on. But we want to stop all that because it's free movement. So now we're getting people from India, we're getting people from Nigeria, we're getting people from Bangladesh. And then when they want to bring their families, we say, we can't do that. So we then make it difficult for them to come. And then we say, you've got to earn £38,000. So we're keeping all the poor jobs, all the low-paid jobs we're keeping for ourselves. It was supposed to be going to be a high-skilled, high-pay economy. So people from abroad who can earn £38,000 can take our jobs. We keep all the poor jobs, and in the meantime, all our many of our skilled people, such as my sons and their friends and so on, are emigrating, leaving. You can't make this work. It's like, I'll give you another analogy. It's like supposing. Because, when you say to anyone in the Labour Party, you say sort of, this is crazy, why can't we go back into the EU? Everybody wants to go back. And we know 60-70% of the people think it was a mistake and would like to rejoin the EU. Whenever you say that, they say, no, that's in the past, that decision was made. Suppose you've got a group of people. They want to go on holiday to Blackpool, so they book a hotel in Blackpool and all the rest of it, and they decide what they're going to do and so on. And they hire a bus, and they set off from central London in the bus. And one of the passengers is rather a loudmouth, and he says, I know the way, I know a better way. Yeah, no. When we get to the M25, we're going to turn left and head for the M4. Head for the M4, that's the best way. And he's so persuasive, this Mr. Farage, and all the passengers say, he seems to know what he's talking about. And the driver says, let's have a vote about it. We'll have a vote and see. And then they vote, yes, we can follow Mr. Farage. Let's go, go on the M4. And so they're driving along, and they start seeing signs for Bristol and so on, and think, this isn't really the way to play. We're going the wrong way. And so they say to the driver, driver keeps changing, but anyway, at this stage it's going to be Mr. Starmer's going to take over. They say, we're going the wrong way. And he says, I know we're going the wrong way. I know we're going to the wrong destination. It's not where we want to go. I know where we wanted to go. We planned to go where we were going, and everything was fine. But we decided not to go that way. So we must go the wrong way, that it's going to lead us somewhere other than where we want to be. The whole thing is so bonkers. And I don't think these people in government, you would have thought they're all academics, they're all clever, they've all been Oxford and Cambridge and so on. I don't think they've got a clue. I really don't think they understand. I don't think they understand. They talk about government departments. They talk about the Department of Health and the Department of Education, the Department of Defence and the Department of Transport, most of it. And tucked on the end, there's also the Department of Trade and Industry. It's so unimportant to the Tories that the Minister, Badenoch, she was only doing that part-time. The rest of the time she was a Minister for Women's Affairs. She wasn't even a full-time Minister for Trade and Industry. I don't think they've got a clue. If you look at the Tory front bench, the one that's just gone, the 30 members of the Cabinet, there's a guy there called Alistair Jack. He was the Scottish Secretary from 2019 until they finally threw in the towel. And he made a lot of money. He had a business doing self-storage and hiring out tents and things, and he was very successful, made 20 million. There was Jeremy Hunt. He started several businesses that failed, and then I think one of them was selling jam to Japan or something. Anyway, he started up some sort of business, some sort of courses for people who are going to go abroad, language courses, I believe. Did very well indeed. He managed to sell out. Him and his partner sold out for 20 million. They got 10 million each, so he's laughing. He's had some experience of business. And then you had Grant Shapps. Now, Grant Shapps, well, we all know about his internet ventures, and that's it. That was it. Those are the only people who had any experience of business previously, I suppose you could say. Nadeem Zahawi knew about business, and these were the people who all, despite the fact they all voted to remain, they all were so keen to push Brexit, which has led to their demise. But if you look at the Labour front bench, there are 30 of them. I'll tell you, there's Rachel Reeves, who worked in finance. She worked for the Bank of England and so on. She's obviously very clever, I would think pretty capable, and she's probably a good person to be Chancellor. She can probably make a pretty good job of it. Keir Starmer, I have no idea what he did before he became a politician, because he never mentions it. But anyway, that's good. This is just to give you an idea. These are the people who are deciding suddenly out of the blue that we must go for growth because we've got no money. And this is the jobs they did. Care worker, trade unionist, local government, charity worker, political researcher, political research barrister, political research barrister, political advisor, barrister, political advisor, campaign director, political advisor, cellist, come charity worker, lecturer, local government officer, charity advisor, solicitor, barrister, charity, solicitor, researcher, advisor, teacher, charity, researcher. And those are the people who are deciding that we should go for growth, and who have absolutely no idea how to go for growth. As I said before, going for growth takes time. It takes time to start a business. It takes time to build businesses. It takes time to get customers and relationships. It's a very, very long process. You can't just switch the tap on. And until such time as we do manage to expand the economy, which might take years, we're going to suffer. And it's just this false hope that suddenly, from next in 3 weeks' time, everything's going to start getting better. That I think is going to disappoint so many people. It's our problems are much too big, and it's all because of Brexit. This insane, mad Brexit. That all these people, every one of them in the shadow cabinet voted to remain, but they want to hang on to, and they want to make it work. They want to make the slow puncture work. It will never, ever work. And until we wake up to that, until we realise that, until somebody gets up and says, listen, we've got to look at it a different way. We've got to look at how we can start to begin the process, even though it might take 20, 30 years to start to begin the process to return to the EU. And as I might have said earlier, I could never understand why Starmer was so emphatic right from the start, from 3 years ago, that we would never, ever, under his leadership, rejoin the Single Market Customs Union or agree to a free movement or eventually rejoin the EU. He was absolutely adamant about it. All he had to do was to say, listen, we had a referendum, people voted to leave, and I'm afraid we have to stick with that. And I see no reason why we should change it. That's all he had to say. He didn't say never, ever, ever. He just leave it like that. And then gradually he could have said, well, the majority now seem to think that we should be back, so we're maybe going to start talking to the EU. And people have said all along that the reason he said that we would never, ever, ever, because he's worried about people in the red wall seats. Well, now he knows that people in the red wall seats, in fact, 60-70% of the country don't want to be in the EU. That is no longer an argument. But he shut the door. He shut the door. He's welded it shut. She's bricked it up. The door is shut. Never ever. You can't go back on this. This is a manifesto. This is what he's using in order to get elected as Prime Minister. With Labour, Britain will stay outside the EU. That's unequivocal. And so, as I say, I probably upset a lot of people by saying this, but things are not going to turn around quickly. This is not the answer, and it's very, very disappointing. And I think there's also a big danger here that what is going to happen is, because of this particular stance, things aren't going to get any better. Things are going to get worse. You're going to find more difficulty getting goods into the country, and people are going to find travelling abroad is going to be very, very difficult. And people who do travel abroad are going to see, as I saw, that other countries are beginning to do quite a lot better and are beginning to recover. And I think Starmer's honeymoon is going to be quite short. And I think there's every chance that by the end of this year, people will be screaming at him as to, you were going to sort everything out. You're worse than the Tories, because things will get worse than they are now. They're not going to get better. And I think he was very foolish. And well, that's it, really. But anyway, as I say, again, I think a lot of people will not agree with me. A lot of people will think that this is the right strategy. But anyone who's going to argue now that this is all a ruse to get the Red Wall voters, and then he's going to turn around, I think you're deluded. Anyhow, that's what I think about it. If you watched this far, thank you very much indeed. And so, fingers crossed. And until next time, bye for now.